بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الرسل وخاتم النبيين محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. It's been an interesting last few months, and the Muslim community and everyone, we have faced many challenges, and if we are to learn from our past or recent past, there are still many challenges to come. Muslims and everyone else is being tested in many different ways, physically, health-wise, emotionally, and also our faith is being tested as well. And I have been privy to, as you would expect, a sort of differences of opinion with regards to what should happen with regards to Eid Salah. Some have termed this as a controversy, which I would say is probably a bit harsh, a bit strong, but difference of opinion, yes, it does exist. But this is to be expected. We are being faced with a novel situation. None of us has experienced this in our lives. Whoever is alive today has not experienced any of this. We may be able to read about this in the happening in the past, but none of us have experienced this. And so a difference of opinion, as you heard from Dr. Wajid there, even within the teaching profession, is plenty. Some schools are opening, some are not opening, some are half opening, and there's a lot of confusion. Similarly, also, when you have a novel situation in regards to our faith, there will be difference of opinion. And that is inevitable, it is natural, it's not something to be disappointed by. And this has always been the case, right from the time of the companions, radiallahu ajma'in, throughout the era of the Imams, etc. There has always been a difference of opinion in different areas of our faith, and the Salaat Al-Eid is no different from that. And اختلاف العلماء رحمة, the difference of the scholars is a form of mercy. If we were to have one single ruling that everyone would have to follow, and all the scholars agreed on it, that would become very difficult for communities spread over time, spread over place. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, part of His wisdom is that He allows a difference of opinions amongst the scholars, and then you have facility for the people to be able to, and flexibility for the people to be able to implement within their lives. So what I would say, under normal circumstances, there are different positions in the different schools. In the Hanafi school, the Salaat Al-Eid is wajib. It is an obligation which is performed in congregation, and it has no qada. You can't, if you missed it, you missed it, you can't make it up afterwards. Okay, and this incidentally also is the opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. This is a position of the Hanafi school, and if a person does miss Salaat Al-Eid, then under normal circumstances we are asked to do, it is mustahab, it is preferable to Salaat Al-Duha. Either you read 2 rakats or you read 4 rakats, but that is not Salaat Al-Eid. That is not Salaat Al-Eid. That is simply, if you don't get, if you're not able to be part of the original congregational prayer, then at least have something, at least do something and be a part of that celebration in some form. So it is nothing more than that. And in the Hanafi school, there is no qada of Salaat Al-Eid. In the Maliki and the Shafi school, Salaat Al-Eid is an emphasized sunnah mu'akkada. Whilst in the Hanbali school, it is fard kifaya. So if a group of people perform Salaat Al-Eid in congregation, in the masjid or in the prayer, the place where they do Eid, then the remaining individuals are absolved of the duty to do so. However, according to the Shafi'i, Maliki and Hanbali schools, this can be performed at home, individually, and also in congregation. Although some Maliki scholars say it has to be individual rather than congregation. Now, they drove their position from the practice of Anas ibn Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Anas ibn Malik, he used to live in a place called Zawiya, which is about a few miles out of Basra. So this was a few miles out of Basra. And what he would do is when he was unable to attend the Salaat Al-Eid at Basra, he would gather his family and he would gather his sons, and he would instruct one of his slaves, Ibn Abi Utbah, to lead them in prayer. And Imam Bukhari rahmatullah, he mentions this not in a muttasil hadith but in a ta'liq. It's not a sahih sound narration. It has breaks in the chain. And there he said, وَصَلَّى كَصَلَاةِ أَهْلِ الْمِصْرِ, and they used to pray like the prayer of the people of this city, mean Basra. وَتَكْبِيرِهِمْ, and like they did their takbir. So they used to perform Eid Salah out in the Zawiya. And then Imam Bukhari continues that Ikrimah, another tabi'i, he said, أهل السواد يستمعون في العيد, that the people in the villages, etc., people living outside the city, they will also gather together on the day of Eid. يصلون ركعتين كما يصنع الإمام, and they pray 2 rak'ahs just as the Imam does in the city. Ata ibn Abi Rabah, another of the earlier scholars, said, إذا فاته العيد, when Eid or somebody misses the Eid, صلى ركعتين, that he would read 2 rakats. So these are some of the athar, some of the vestiges we have from our pious predecessors, Anas ibn Malik and others, who take this position that if you miss Eid in the city, if you miss Eid with the congregation, you can pray at home. And this is the basis of the Maliki, Shafi and Hanbali schools, where they allowed Eid at home. In relation to the Hanafi school, they have the position that just as Salaat Al-Jum'ah can only take place in the city, it cannot take place in a small village. Similarly, so, and that is the position of Hazrat Ali Karamallahu Wajhahu, the cousin of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the 4th Khalifa. That was his position. And Ali Radiallahu Ta'ala, who also says the same in regards to Salaat Al-Eid as well. Ali Ta'ala said in Musannaf Abdul Razak, لا جمعة ولا تشريق ولا صلاة فطر ولا أضحى إلا في مثل جامع أو مدينة عظيمة. That there is no Jum'ah, no tashriq, no cutting of the sacrificial of animal, or another interpretation of tashriq is that there is no takbir of tashriq, ولا صلاة فطر, or صلاة Eid of Eid al-Fitr, or ولا أضحى, no of Eid al-Adha, except في مصر جامع, in a large city, or مدينة عظيمة. So in the city, in a large city, that is only at its done. So that is the base of the Hanafi school, that Eid Salah is a different Salah altogether. And this is under normal circumstances. Now, currently in the situation where we are at, is where even in the city, even in the masajid, or even in the musalla of Eid, where they would perform Eid, there is no congregational prayer. And rightly so, there should not be a congregational prayer where we should be putting ourselves at risk. So therefore, the scholars of today say in this unprecedented situation, there's a difference of opinion. Some scholars, even with the Hanafi school, some scholars are saying you pray Eid at home if you are able to make up the numbers. And other scholars are saying, well, actually, Eid Salah is a congregational prayer. It's where everyone comes together. That is the only way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has performed it, and he has not performed it individually, and so therefore that is how it should be done. So you do have a difference of opinion, and like I said at the beginning, the difference of the scholars is a form of mercy. Difference for scholars is a form of mercy for us. That, alhamdulillah, the situation allows those that can fulfill the requirements at home. In the Hanafi school, that would be a minimum of 4 individuals. In the Hanafi school, that would be a minimum of 4 individuals. If you have 4 individuals in the home, or 4 males in the home, 4 mature males in the home, then you can hold Salaat Al-Eid at home, even the Hanafi school, according to this position. And whilst I'm not convinced that under normal circumstances, Salaat Al-Eid can be performed at home, because for me, Salaat Al-Eid or Salaat Al-Jum'ah the Jum'ah itself means coming together, congregation. So it is supposed to be performed altogether. So while I'm not convinced by the argument that Salaat Al-Eid at home is okay for normal circumstances, in these unprecedented times, I think there has to be license to allow people to, normalize as much as possible their Eid, which will include, if possible, Salaat Al-Eid at home. And if a person is unable to make up the numbers, they can do 2 rakats or 4 rakats Salaat Al-Duha at home, and there will be no khutbah in there. There will be no, it won't be the same Salaat Al-Eid, but at least they have performed something. And then the rest of the day, the festives of the Eid within their own household, they can continue. So my advice would be that there is flexibility in this issue, and in this unprecedented time, we should allow that flexibility. However, there are certain conditions that would need to be met. And so what I would advise is that people speak to their local scholars, local imams, etc., and ask for their advice on how they should perform Salaat Al-Eid at home, if at all. I hope that has provided some clarity on that, inshallah. And I just want to reiterate what Brother Dr. Wajid has said, that alhamdulillah, up until now, we have done a fantastic and sterling job. On the whole, there have been lapses here and there. And I too am seeing that people are becoming more lax. And in all honesty, Dr. Wajid, he works in a hospital, I do too. Practicing social distancing, even where in the limited number of places that people are going to work, as in the hospitals, is not an easy feat. And quite often you find that the requirements of social distancing are not being met. And so therefore, it doesn't make sense for us to come together, and increase our existence outside the homes. And for those people, very sadly, Dr. Wajid has said that, who are saying, who is watching us? Well, Allah is watching you. Who is watching us? Allah is watching you. We seem to forget that obeying the rules that government has advised that we should be, and it's not, and when we say advise, it's not an advice that you can take, it's an instruction. Matt Hancock said at one time that this is not simply advice, this is an instruction. So this is an instruction from our government, which is for our betterment, and Islamically is something we have to follow. So for those of our brothers and sisters who are misled into thinking that we just make our way into the park or outside and just happen to be in a place where we'll congregate and pray Salaat Al-Eid, well, actually, you are committing a sin in doing so. You're actually committing a sin in doing so. Following the government guidelines is actually an obligation on ourselves as well. So let's, ya ayyuhalladhina amtiu Allah wa atiu rasulahu wa ulil amri minkum. And ulil amr, those that are charged with authority over you, this includes non-Muslims as well. It does include non-Muslim as well, as long as we are living in this country and as long as we are living under the non-Muslim government. This is the guidance we have to follow, particularly when that guidance is done for our benefit. If it was something that was done with ill intent, and it was something that negated our faith or an aspect of our faith, and la ta'ata li makhluqin fi ma'siyati al-khaliq, fine. But this is not in that sense. This is done for our benefit and for our health and well-being, and this is something that we need to adhere to. And we are in this for the long haul. We need to not get fatigued. We are in this for the long haul. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing our resolve, and we need to meet that challenge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala presented before us. For otherwise, I know in Yorkshire there has been an increase, and the R rate is 0.8. It's double that of London, and so particularly in Yorkshire, we are not able to advise individuals to start opening the masajid and start and from my perspective, even if the government tells us tomorrow that we should open our schools, send our children to schools, we should open our masajid, we need to do our own risk assessment, because the government has its own priorities. We need to decide what is best for our communities. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq and the guidance to do what is right. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not test us further with this illness, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us beacons for other people, inshallah. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.